The call that shattered 20 years. 1. The phone that should never ring. For 20 years, I lived with the ache of a wound time refused to heal. My name is Evelyn Hart, and I buried my son, my only child, when he was. Welcome to my YouTube channel. A story a day. Please subscribe channel. Thanks. Let's start. Just 12. A drunk driver stole him from the world one rainy November night. From me, he stole everything. But grief doesn't die. It sits quietly, like a ghost in the corner, waiting for one moment to claw you open again. Mine waited exactly 2 decades. It happened on a Thursday evening at 7:41 p.m. I remember this because I had just set down my teacup, a ritual I never broke since the year after my son, Michael, died. Every night, I made tea for 2. A cup for myself. A cup for him. The second cup always grew cold. But keeping it made me feel like his spirit still visited, just silently. The tea was steeping when it happened. My old cell phone, an outdated model I only kept out of stubborn habit, buzzed. It rarely rang. Most people called my landline. And those who didn't, well, I didn't exactly have many people left. But that night, it buzzed loudly, urgently, as if the world needed me. When I turned it over, I froze. My heart didn't just skip, it stopped. The number glowing on the screen was impossible. Impossible. It was my son's number. The number I had refused to delete. The number I had dialed every birthday for 20 years just to hear the automated message. The number you are trying to reach is no longer in service. But tonight it was calling me. The phone shook in my hand, or perhaps my hand shook around it. My breath caught in my throat. The air in the kitchen turned thick and heavy, like the atmosphere right before a storm. I stared. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My fingers trembled as I watched the phone screen light up, then dim, then light again with another incoming ring. And again. Again. 4 times. 4 calls in under a minute. All from Michael's number. On the 5th ring, I answered. My voice came out a whisper. Hello. For a moment, there was only static. Soft, gentle, crackling static, like the sound of an old radio trying to find a signal. Is Mom? My blood turned cold. I stopped breathing altogether. Because the voice that spoke, the voice that echoed through 2 decades of silence, was my son's. Not similar. Not reminiscent. Not close. It was him. His softness. His slight rasp when he was nervous. The way he dragged out the M just a little too long. Mom, can you hear me? I staggered backward, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter for balance. This couldn't be happening. Someone was playing a cruel joke. Someone was mimicking him. Someone was. But no. No one alive could mimic the tone of a child whose voice I heard singing in the shower, giggling at cartoons, whispering his fears during thunderstorms. Michael, I whispered, barely able to force the name out. The line crackled. Then again the man, spoke. I don't have much time. Those words punched through me like a gust of frozen wind. My knees weakened. I slid down to the kitchen floor, clutching the phone so tightly my nails dug into my palm. Where are you? I whispered. Who is this? Another pause. A long one. Then, it's me, Mom. I need your help. 2. The grave I never escaped. The phone call ended abruptly, cut off by static, and the screen flashed. Call ended. I didn't sleep that night. My tea sat untouched. The lights were left on. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the silent phone, listening for another ring that never came. The next morning, I drove to the cemetery. It wasn't a conscious decision. It felt like I was pulled by something invisible, something magnetic. As if answering that call created a force linking me back to the last place I wanted to go. Michael's grave was on a small hill, shaded by a weeping willow. The branches hung low, as if even nature mourned alongside me. For 20 years, I visited weekly. But today felt different. Today, the air itself was heavier. When I reached the grave, something was wrong. Very wrong. The ground was disturbed. Not the whole plot, just a small, shallow area near the headstone. Freshly dug soil. Uneven. Turned over. Like someone had been there. Like someone had dug. My chest tightened. No, no, no. I dropped to my knees, beside the disturbed earth. This had to be a coincidence. A landscaper mistake. A dog digging. But I knew better. A mother always knows. M. Michael. The name spilled from my lips as a tear blurred my vision. Wind swept across the hill. Birds scattered suddenly, abruptly as if spooked. My hands brushed the soil, and underneath, my fingertips hit something smooth. A plastic object. I gently pulled it free. My heart lurched. It was a phone case. A cracked, faded, dirt-covered phone case. His phone case. The one he had begged me to buy him a week before the accident. Red with black stripes and tiny stickers he'd added. A dinosaur, a star, a tiny lightning bolt. I recognized every scratch, every peel, every detail. Yet I had placed this phone in his coffin 20 years ago. It should have been buried deep, unreachable. So how was it here? Fresh dirt. Freshly unearthed. My breath shook. Someone had opened his grave. Someone had taken his phone. Someone had used it. 3, the detective who didn't believe me. I went to the police. I had to. I sat in a cold, gray interrogation room, though they called it a meeting room, claiming my concerns were being taken seriously. Detective Rowan entered with a clipboard, trying to smile as if dealing with an elderly woman who'd misplaced her medication. So, he began, you're saying someone dug into your son's grave and called you from his phone. Yes, I said firmly. He nodded slowly, pen unmoving. And this call, it sounded like your son. I swallowed. It was my son. He sighed, and his expression softened the way people soften when speaking to someone fragile. Mrs. Hart, I know grief can create illusions. It wasn't grief, I snapped. I know my son's voice. He hesitated. Then he wrote something down, likely about stress, delusion, or psychological trauma. I forced myself to breathe. Just send someone to the cemetery. That's all I ask. Someone disturbed the burial site. At that, he finally nodded. That part we can investigate. But before he stood, he asked a question that irritated me deeply. When did your son die? 20 years ago, I said through clenched teeth. He paused. And the phone number, has it been disconnected all this time? Yes. And you're certain no one else had access to it? Yes. Mrs. Hart, numbers get reassigned. Someone could have gotten your son's old number and... Stop. My voice broke, but my resolve didn't. The number was deactivated permanently. Because it was associated with a child's death. All records confirmed this. My phone literally says, this number is not in service. It has said that for 20 years. He looked unsure. Uneasy. As if suddenly, this wasn't just a grief-stricken mother's fantasy. Look, I whispered. Someone called me. Someone who sounded exactly like my child. Someone who knew my name. Someone who knew my voice. Someone who told me he needed help. The detective exhaled slowly. I'll send officers to check the grave, he said. And I'll request a trace on the incoming call. It might take time. Thank you. But I saw doubt in his eyes. Doubt and something like pity. The kind reserved for lost souls. People who clung to ghosts. I left the station with trembling hands and a heart heavier than before. Because no matter what he believed, I knew what I heard. 4, the second call. 3 nights later, the phone rang again. Same number. Same time, 7:41 p.m. I answered instantly. Hello, Michael. This time, there was no static. Just breathing. Familiar breathing. Soft, frightened, shaky. Mom. His voice cracked. I'm here, I said, trying not to sob. I'm right here. I don't know where I am. My grip tightened around the phone. What do you mean? I whispered. The line crackled faintly. I woke up and everything was dark and cold, and He paused. I don't know how I got here. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Honey, listen to me. Tell me what you see. Walls, he whispered. Metal, there's a light above me, it's flickering. Metal walls. Flickering light. What kind of description was that? Are you hurt? I asked, voice trembling. My head hurts, and my chest. A small whimper. Mom, I'm scared. That sound, his trembling fear, shattered me. No mother forgets the tone of their child's fear. Stay calm, I urged. Stay on the line, I'm getting help. No, he cried suddenly. No police, don't tell anyone. That stopped me cold. Why? I asked. Michael, why can't I tell anyone? His voice dropped to a terrified whisper. They'll find me. Who? Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. Then, the faintest whisper. The men who took me. My heart stopped. Took him. But he died. He was buried. I saw his body. I identified him. I signed the death certificate. Honey, I whispered shakily, you were in an accident, you. No. His voice was firm. Soft but certain. Mom, they lied to you. I felt dizzy. They told you I died, he continued. But I didn't, they took me. My stomach twisted violently. None of this made sense. None of it fit reality. Michael, I whispered shakily, you were buried, I saw. You saw what they wanted you to see. His voice trembled harder. Please, Mom, you have to find me, I don't have much time. They keep moving me. My vision blurred through tears. Where are you? I begged. A long pause. Then, I think I'm underground. My breath hitched. And Mom. His voice cracked into raw fear. If they realize I contacted you, they'll kill me for real this time. The line went dead. 5, the past that isn't past. That night, everything unraveled. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I barely breathed. His words replayed over and over. They lied to you. They took me. I'm underground. Don't tell the police. Of course, I didn't believe it. Not fully. Not logically. But emotionally. Emotionally, every cell in my body screamed one impossible truth. My son is alive. Or at least, someone wanted me to believe so. But who? And why? And how did they know so much? I needed answers. Real ones. Hard ones. So I did what no mother should ever have to do. I opened the box I promised myself never to touch again. A box that held the remnants of a childhood stolen. It contained Michael's last school notebook, his broken action figures, the shirt he wore the morning of the accident, the police report, the autopsy summary, the accident photos. My hands shook violently as I spread everything across the dining table. The police report had always felt incomplete to me. The accident happened at 8:17 p.m. But the witness statements were vague, conflicting, disorganized. The driver, a man named George K., was arrested but released due to insufficient evidence of fault. He was killed in an unrelated incident 4 years later. At the time, none of this mattered. I was drowning in grief. I didn't want answers. I wanted oblivion. But now, I read every word, every line, every medical detail, and something struck me. Something small, something I had never noticed, buried in medical jargon. The autopsy report was incomplete. It listed head trauma, rib fractures, bruising consistent with impact, pulse undetectable at arrival, death declared at 8:51 p.m. But then, at the bottom, way down in tiny letters, cause of death undetermined. My stomach flipped. Undetermined. Why hadn't I seen that? Why hadn't anyone explained it? Suddenly the world felt tilted, off balance, dangerous. Before I could process it, a knock sounded at my door. Slow. Deliberate. I froze. No one visited me. No one knocked at night. I stepped toward the door cautiously and looked through the peephole. A man stood there. Tall. Wearing a dark coat. Expression unreadable. He didn't knock again. He didn't move. He just waited. My heart pounded. Finally, he spoke through the door, voice low and steady. Mrs. Hart, we need to talk. It's about your son. The man ATTHE door. The knock echoed through the house again, slow, steady, deliberate. I froze beside the door, my heart pounding so hard I feared the stranger outside could hear it. His silhouette stood unmoving beneath the porch light, his features hidden beneath the shadow of his coat collar. Finally, he spoke again. Mrs. Hart, please, I don't have much time, and neither do you. My breath hitched. No one should know about the phone call. No one should know about the grave. No one should know my son's name except neighbors, friends, and those who pitied a grieving mother. But this man's tone wasn't pity. It was urgency. Danger. I steadied my trembling hand against the doorknob. Who are you? I asked through the door, trying to keep my voice firm. Someone who can help you, he said. Someone who knows the truth about what happened 20 years ago. My pulse throbbed in my ears. Tell me who you are, I repeated, louder this time. After a long silence, he answered. My name is Adrian Cole. I used to work for the people who took your son. The world tilted. My legs nearly buckled. Took. As in kidnapped. As in not dead. As in alive, somewhere in the dark. I swallowed hard, forcing strength into my voice. You're lying, I whispered. No, he said softly. I wish I was. His quiet honesty frightened me more than a threat would have. I unlocked the chain, opened the door halfway, but kept my hand firmly planted on its edge. The man before me looked exhausted, gaunt cheeks, stubble, hollow eyes that held too many secrets. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks, maybe years. He wasn't young. Perhaps late 30s. Too young to have been involved 20 years ago, unless he'd been part of something long-term. He glanced around, scanning the empty street nervously. Then he met my eyes. May I come in? He asked. No. I didn't trust him. Not yet. Not ever. But he nodded as if he expected the answer. Then at least listen, he said. Your son, Michael, didn't die in a car accident. He was taken minutes before the ambulance arrived. Swapped. My lips parted, but no sound came out. He continued quickly, as if expecting interruption. You weren't supposed to question anything. They counted on grief to cloud the truth. Who? I demanded. He hesitated. They call themselves the Ark. The name meant nothing. But the chill that ran through my spine told me it should. They specialize in experimental human programs, he said. Children are prime targets. They monitor abilities, genetics, behavioral potential. Stop, I snapped. My body shook with fury. You're talking about my son, not a lab specimen. I know, he whispered. That's why I left, that's why I'm here. My knees felt weak again. I gripped the door harder. You're lying, I whispered. All of this is insane. I know, he said again. But you got the call, the one from his old number. I froze. How do you know that? His jaw tightened. Because I rerouted it. The world around me blurred. He stepped closer, not dangerously, but gently, like someone approaching a wounded animal. Mrs. Hart, your son is alive, but not for long. They've moved him again. If we don't act, he'll disappear forever. My throat burned with emotion. How do I know you're not manipulating me? He reached into his coat slowly. Every muscle in my body tensed. But he didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it and held it toward me. It was a photograph. My breath caught violently. It was my son, but older, around his early 30s. The same eyes. Same crooked smile. Same dimple on the right cheek. His hair was longer, wavy, unkempt. He looked thinner. Pale, but alive. Tears welled in my eyes and spilled down my cheeks. Where, my voice broke, where did you get this? It was taken inside one of their holding sites, Adrian said. I freed 3 boys last year. Michael wasn't one of them, but I saw him. I clutched the doorframe to keep myself upright. I didn't believe it at first either, Adrian whispered, but he kept saying one thing over and over. I swallowed. What? Adrian held my gaze. He kept saying, my mom thinks I'm dead. I broke. The sob escaped before I could stop it. My hands shook uncontrollably. My son. Alive. Thinking I abandoned him. Thinking I accepted his death. The thought shattered me. When the tears finally slowed, Adrian spoke again. You must understand, the call you received wasn't just a coincidence. He managed to get access to one of their communication lines. He used an old database of numbers they'd stored, including his old phone number. I wiped my face with trembling fingers. He told me he was underground, I whispered, in a metal room with a flickering light. Adrian's expression darkened. That matches their transport facility, he said. They keep subjects sedated and locked in metal chambers until relocation. Relocation, I echoed weakly. His jaw tightened. That's their word for erasing someone forever. Fear surged through me so violently, I had to reach for the wall. How long do we have? A few days, maybe less, he said. They discovered the breach. They know someone contacted the outside. My son, I whispered. He said they would kill him if they found out. Adrian nodded grimly. And they will, unless we move now. The search, BGNS. I finally let him inside. Not because I trusted him, but because fear outweighed doubt. We sat at my dining table, the place where memories felt safest. His presence felt wrong here, like corruption in a holy place. He placed a map on the table. This, he said, is the current underground layout of the ARC's network on the East Coast. They move sites, but patterns remain. I stared at the web of tunnels, buildings, and symbols. He pointed to a circle. This is where I believe your son is being held. A decommissioned military bunker 20 miles from here. My heartbeat thudded painfully. You're certain. As certain as anyone can be against an organization buried this deep. I exhaled shakily. What do you need from me? You already did the hardest part, he said. You believed the call. He slid another item across the table, a slim black device with blinking blue lights. What is this? A signal trace. It captured the frequency your son used when he called you. It's weak, but it's enough to track. I swallowed. The police will think I'm insane, I whispered. That's why we're not involving the police, he said quietly. They're already infiltrated. Some unknowingly cooperate, some intentionally. My stomach twisted. He then pulled out a small, folded note. Your son left you a message, he said softly. From inside the facility, he wrote it on a scrap of packaging paper. My hands shook violently as I opened it. The handwriting was messy. Small. Rushed, but real. It read, "Mom, I know you think I died. I heard them say you cried for years. I want you to know I never forgot you. Please find me before they move us again. I love you. M." A sound escaped me, not a sob, not a cry. Something deeper, something painful. A mother's heart breaking and mending at the same time. I pressed the note to my chest. "I'm coming, baby," I whispered. "Mom's coming." Adrian watched silently, respectfully. After a moment, he cleared his throat. "We should leave by tomorrow at dawn," he said. "No," I said immediately. His eyebrows lifted. "No, we leave tonight." He hesitated. "It's dangerous at night. And waiting is more dangerous for my son." He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Tonight it is. The road to truth." We left at midnight. The world outside was quiet, moonlight spilling across empty streets like silver paint. The air was cold, but my blood felt feverish with adrenaline. Adrian drove an unmarked black SUV. No plates. No visible ID. I didn't ask questions. I just stared out at the road, gripping the note in my hand like a lifeline. After an hour, he spoke softly. "There are things you should know before we get there." I kept my eyes ahead. "Tell me." "Your son, Michael, he wasn't chosen randomly." My stomach clenched. "What do you mean?" "Children aren't taken without reason. Your son showed signs of something unusual." "Unusual how?" I snapped. He hesitated. "High cognitive pattern recognition, exceptional memory, emotional intuition off the charts, extreme resilience. Your son scored higher even before he knew he was being monitored." A chill ran down my spine. "He was monitored," I whispered. "Yes, for months before they took him." Anger surged hot and violent through my chest. He continued. "Most children can't endure ARC conditioning, but your son survived stages that break adults." I gripped the seat, trying to breathe. "What did they want with him?" I asked. "Control," he said simply. "Of what he could become." My voice cracked. "What does that mean?" Adrian glanced at me, eyes filled with something between fear and awe. "Your son wasn't just a victim, Mrs. Hart. He was their most valuable subject." The bunker. We arrived just before dawn. The bunker sat hidden beneath an abandoned lumber yard, rotting wood piles, rusted machinery, cracked concrete. But beneath the decay was something far darker. A metal hatch. Guarded. Two men in black uniforms stood in the fog. Adrian slowed the car and parked a distance away. "That's the entrance," I whispered. "Yes." "How do we get inside?" He stared ahead, jaw tight. "We don't use the front door." He led me behind the lumber yard to a cluster of overturned logs. Hidden beneath them was a rusted ventilation shaft. "Help me with this," he said. Together we lifted the metal grate. It screeched loudly, too loudly, but the fog swallowed most sound. The air from within the vent blew cold across my face. Adrian looked at me seriously. "Once we go in, there's no going back." I didn't hesitate. "Take me to my son." We crawled into the darkness. The metallic tunnel was narrow, echoing with the hum of machinery deep below. My knees scraped against the metal. The cold bit into my skin. After several minutes of crawling, Adrian whispered, "We're above the lower levels now. We need to drop down." He slid open a small panel beneath us. I peered down into a dim corridor lit by flickering lights. Metal walls. Gray floors. The air smelled sterile, and something else. Fear. It matched Michael's description exactly. My breath caught. Adrian dropped down silently, then motioned for me to follow. When my feet hit the ground, a shock of fear ran through me. This was real. All of it. We moved down the hallway, staying close to the walls. Adrian checked corners, listening. Finally, he whispered, "The holding rooms are up ahead." My pulse hammered so hard I thought I'd faint. We approached a row of heavy metal doors, each with a small, reinforced window. Adrian unlocked the first. Empty. The second. Empty. Third. Empty. My hope trembled. But at the fourth door, I froze. A figure sat inside, curled on the floor, hands over his knees. Thin, pale, unshaven, hair messy, clothes torn. Slowly, he lifted his head. His eyes met mine. Blue. Wide. Familiar. My son. My baby. But grown. "Mom," he whispered. The world stopped. My breath broke. My knees nearly buckled. "Michael." It escaped in a sob. He stood shakily, stumbling toward the door. "Mom, you really came." I pressed my hand to the glass. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm here, sweetheart. I never stopped looking for you." He pressed his palm against mine, through the window. Tears slid down his cheeks. "I thought I'd never see you again." Adrian moved quickly, pulling tools from his pocket. "We need to move now," he whispered urgently. "They'll know we're here." I didn't move. I couldn't. I stared at my son, my grown son, alive, terrified but alive. Adrian jammed a device into the lock. The door clicked. He swung it open. I rushed in. I pulled my son into my arms. He collapsed into my embrace, shaking violently. "Mom." He sobbed into my shoulder. "I knew you'd come, I knew it." I held him tighter than I'd ever held anything in my life. "I've got you," I whispered. "I've got you, baby, you're safe now." But Adrian's voice suddenly sharpened with panic. "Mrs. Hart, Michael." I looked up. His eyes were glued to the hallway. Footsteps. Dozens. Vast. Coming straight toward us. "They found us," Adrian said. Michael clung to me, terrified. "Mom." I grabbed his face in my hands. "Listen to me," I whispered fiercely. "We're getting out of here, I promise you." Adrian pulled a small pistol from his jacket. "Stay behind me." But before any of us could move, a loud alarm blared through the bunker. Red lights flashed. Footsteps grew louder. And a deep, distorted voice boomed over the intercom. "Subject 32 has been compromised. Initiate containment protocol." Michael's hand tightened around mine. "Mom," he whispered, voice trembling with terror. "They're coming." The next morning arrived far too quickly. I barely slept. My mind kept replaying the impossible voicemail from Daniel's number, the security footage of a shadowed boy I was convinced wasn't mine, and the unsettling discovery that someone had placed a bouquet of white lilies, Daniel's favorite, on my porch sometime between midnight and dawn. Lily petals scattered across the welcome mat like tiny fallen stars, and for the first time in 20 years, I hesitated before opening my door. A chill crawled up my spine. Someone had been here. Someone who knew about Daniel. Someone who knew about me. Someone who didn't want to be seen. But as terrifying as it was, I wasn't ready to run, not after 2 decades of unanswered questions. Guilt and longing. I picked up the bouquet and brought it inside. The stems were wrapped in plain brown paper, but written across it in small block letters was a single phrase. "I'm sorry I left." My hands shook so violently, the lilies nearly slipped from my grasp. Daniel used to say that whenever he left the house, even if he was only going to play outside with his friends, "Sorry I left, Mom. I brought you a flower." He'd come running through the door with a crushed dandelion or a wild poppy clutched in his tiny hand. And now, someone was recreating his gestures. Someone who either knew him intimately or wanted me to believe he had returned. I didn't know which possibility scared me more, the investigators' arrival. Detective Harper arrived at 7:45 a.m. sharp, her hair tied back, her face sharp with focus. She had been the lead investigator on Daniel's case 20 years ago. She'd fought for justice when the world had written it off as a tragic accident. And now, she was the only person I trusted. I opened the door before she knocked. She frowned at the flowers on the coffee table. "You said these weren't here last night." "No," my voice trembled. "They appeared sometime after I went to bed." She slipped on gloves and examined the paper. "Burnt edges," she murmured. "Looks like someone tried to erase fingerprints." Her voice softened. "Emma, you need to prepare yourself. Whoever is doing this, it may not stop." "I don't want it to stop," I whispered. "Not until I know the truth." Her eyes held mine for a long moment before she nodded. "Okay, then we're doing this together." The deeper we dig, the darker it gets. Detective Harper brought files, old ones, yellowed and brittle, some of them sealed until she reopened them under special authorization. She spread them across my dining table like a grim mosaic of the past. Photos, reports, autopsy results, statements from people I hadn't seen in 20 years. Each document felt like a blow to the chest. "Emma," she said carefully, "there's something I never told you. We never found Daniel's body." My breath caught. "What?" "You were grieving so deeply, and you insisted on burying the sealed coffin. The pressure from the community, the media, it was overwhelming. The assumption was that the body had been too damaged to identify, and the remains collected were considered his." I felt the world tilt beneath my feet. "You're telling me we buried an empty coffin?" "Not empty," she clarified. "But what was inside wasn't conclusively identified, and at the time, we believed it was best to spare you further trauma." My stomach churned. "So he could have been alive?" She hesitated. "We didn't have proof, and we still don't." But my heart, my mother's heart, had just been cracked open in a way it hadn't been in 20 years. A new clue emerges. While going through the files, I noticed something, a detail I'd forgotten in the chaos of grief. A neighbor, Mrs. Grayson, had told police that on the night Daniel disappeared, she had heard a car door slam and a child crying. The statement had been dismissed because she often heard neighborhood kids outside at late hours. Detective Harper tapped the page. "This bothers me," she admitted, because she described the crying as confused, not hurt. And she said she heard someone say, "It's going to be okay, buddy. I've got you." A cold wave washed over me. That voice, those words, they matched the voicemail. Exactly. "Emma," Harper said, her face pale, "this suggests Daniel wasn't taken violently. He may have known whoever abducted him." "But who?" I pressed. "Who would take him, for what reason?" Harper didn't answer. Instead, she picked up another file, one I hadn't seen before. A name jumped out, Michael Turner. My ex-husband's brother. Daniel's uncle. A man who had disappeared from our lives months before Daniel vanished. My pulse hammered. Why is Michael's name here? "Because," Harper said slowly, "he was questioned. He had a history of instability, and after Daniel's disappearance, he vanished." I covered my mouth to hold back a sob. Michael had always loved Daniel, too much sometimes, overprotective, possessive, always insisting he could take better care of him than I could. "Emma," Harper said, her voice sharp, "did he ever contact you after he left town?" "No." "Did he have any reason to hurt you, or your husband?" "He hated my husband," I whispered, "but he loved Daniel." "Exactly," she said. "This doesn't feel like someone who wanted to hurt Daniel. It feels like someone who wanted to take him." My entire body trembled. "Do you think he still has him?" I asked, my voice cracking like thin glass. Harper didn't sugarcoat it. "I think there's a real possibility." The phone rings again. At that exact moment, as if cued by the universe, my phone rang. I stared at the screen. It was the same number. Daniel's number. The one that should have been dead for 20 years. My legs gave out. Harper caught the phone before it hit the floor. Answer it, I begged. Please. She put it on speaker. A breath. A soft crackle of static. Then a voice. A voice that made my soul shatter. Mom, are you there? Oh God. Oh God. It was him. It was Daniel. Older, deeper, but undeniably, heartbreakingly him. Daniel, I whispered, tears pouring down my face. Sweetheart, where are you? Silence. A shaky inhale. I can't talk long, he'll know. Hey. The word chilled my blood. Who? Harper asked sharply. Who's with you? Daniel ignored the question. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. My heart clenched. Daniel, please come home, I begged. Please, I've missed you every single day. I want to, he said, voice breaking. But I can't, not yet. Why? I cried. Why can't you? A whisper, barely audible. Because he says, you're in danger. Harper grabbed the phone. Daniel, listen to me. We can protect your mother. Tell us where you are. No, he choked. He's watching. I had to call. I had to hear her voice. Daniel. I love you, Mom, he said, and I swear I'll find a way back. The line went dead. I crumpled into Harper's arms, sobbing. My son was alive. 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 And in danger. Harper's new deduction. When I finally calmed, Harper spoke with urgency. Emma, listen. His tone, his pauses, he sounded like he was calling from somewhere rural. No city noise, no traffic, just wind. I tried to swallow the terror, rising in my throat. So he's close. Possibly, but more important. She lifted the lily bouquet again. This message, I'm sorry I left, combined with the call tells me something else. What? He's trying to get to you, but he's being controlled. Someone is preventing him from leaving. I closed my eyes, pain thrumming in my chest. My baby, I whispered. She squeezed my shoulder. We're going to find him, I swear it. The first real lead in 20 years. Harper packed up the documents, then paused. Emma, I found something else last night after reviewing the files. She handed me an old evidence photo. A rusted truck seen near our old house the night Daniel vanished. And etched into the bumper was a faint, barely visible decal of a mountain range. The Blue Ridge Mountains, Harper said. Michael Turner grew up there. My heart stopped. Are you saying? Yes, I'm saying I believe Michael took him, and if Daniel is still alive, he's somewhere in those mountains. My voice was barely a whisper. Then that's where we go. Harper nodded. We leave at dawn. Dawn broke cold and silver across the sky as Detective Harper and I packed the car. The air felt heavier than the morning before, as if the world itself understood the weight of what we were about to do. After 20 years of mourning, a child I thought I had buried. After a month of terror, confusion, and impossible phone calls. After hearing my son's grown voice tremble through the phone like a cracked instrument. Today, we were going to find Daniel. One way or another. Harper loaded her gear, double-checked the maps, and glanced at me with a seriousness that brought tears to my eyes. You ready? She asked. No, I admitted softly, but I have to go. We set off before the sun lifted over the horizon. The MONTNS that hid SECRTS. The Blue Ridge Mountains rose like blue shadows in the distance, ancient and silent. I stared at them through the windshield, my fingers twisting the lily from last night, the one someone left on my porch. The last gift from Daniel before the call. Every mile deeper into the mountains made my chest tighten. The cell service flickered in and out. The roads narrowed, winding like snakes through towering pines. Michael lived around here as a kid, Harper said. He knows these woods better than anyone. What if he's dangerous? I whispered. Harper didn't answer right away. Then softly, we'll handle him. Whatever this turns out to be, you're not facing it alone. I swallowed hard and looked out the window. Among the endless trees, for the first time I felt something. A pull. A whisper. A mother's instinct. Daniel is here. I didn't know how I knew. But I knew. The cabin in the clearing. After nearly an hour of driving through dirt roads and forest trails, Harper slowed the car. There, she said quietly. A cabin, old, weathered, half hidden by overgrown brush, sat in a clearing. Smoke curled from a chimney. A truck with a rusted bumper sat to the side. The same rust pattern, the same faded mountain decal from the old evidence photo. My breath hitched. Michael Turner's truck. Harper's hand found my shoulder. This is it. My heart pounded wildly against my ribs as we stepped out of the car. Gravel crunched beneath our feet. The air was still, deadly still. As we approached the cabin, I noticed something on the porch. A flower. A single white lily. Waiting for me. Harper whispered, "He left this today." My hands shook as I approached the door. Harper signaled for me to stand behind her as she knocked firmly. "Michael Turner, this is Detective Harper with the State Investigation Unit. Open the door." Silence. Then, a soft shuffle inside. A shadow moving behind the curtain. A soft voice. "Mom." My knees nearly buckled. "Daniel," I choked out. "Baby, open the door." Another voice, rougher, older, snapped sharply. Daniel stepped back. Harper drew her weapon instantly. "Michael Turner, step away from the boy and open the door." A bang. A crash. Something heavy fell inside. Then the door flew open. The man who stole 2 DCDs. Michael Turner stood in the doorway. Older, gray hair, a long beard, eyes wild and sunken. But there was something else, something twisted in his expression. A mixture of fear and devotion. Behind him, half hidden in the shadows, stood a young man. My son. Daniel. He was taller than I expected, older, his shoulders broader, but his eyes. His eyes were the same soft brown as the day he disappeared. "Mom," he whispered, voice cracking. I lunged forward, but Harper held me back, shielding me. Michael stepped forward, gripping Daniel's arm. "He's not going anywhere," Michael barked. "She won't take you from me. I raised you. I kept you safe." My vision blurred with red. "You took him," I screamed. "You stole my child." Daniel winced at the word stole. He looked torn. "Daniel," Harper said gently, lowering her voice. "You called your mother, you reached out, you left clues, you want help." Michael's grip tightened on Daniel's arm. "He doesn't need help, he needs protection." "From who?" Harper asked sharply. Michael's lips twisted. "From the world, from her husband, from the people who wanted to hurt him." I felt my blood run cold. "My husband," I whispered. "What are you talking about?" Michael looked at me with something like pity. "You didn't know. He wanted to send Daniel away, to a facility. He said Daniel was too much trouble." I heard him. I heard everything. My world froze. "My husband loved Daniel," I said, voice trembling. Michael shook his head violently. "No, he did. He was going to ruin him. I saved him." Daniel flinched. "Uncle Michael," he whispered, "you told me she didn't want me. You told me she stopped looking." My heart shattered. "Daniel, that's not true," I said, stepping forward. "I never stopped looking for you, not for a moment." He blinked rapidly, the truth cracking his composure. Michael snarled, "Enough, she doesn't deserve." He didn't finish. Daniel pulled away from him, violently, desperately. "Stop lying," he shouted. "You kept me here for 20 years. You said she was dead." Harper shouted, "Daniel, get down." Michael lunged for him. Harper tackled Michael in one swift motion, pinning him to the ground as he screamed and thrashed. "You can't take him. He's mine. He's mine." Daniel stared at the scene, trembling, chest heaving. I ran to him. He didn't move. He didn't retreat. He whispered one word. Mom. And I gathered him into my arms. For the first time in 20 years, I held my son. The aftermath. Michael was arrested on multiple charges: kidnapping, endangerment, obstruction, and more. His delusions ran deep, but they no longer had any power. What he stole, though: the years of Daniel's childhood, his teenage years, his early adulthood. Those were wounds time could never fully heal. Daniel and I spent days in the hospital together. Physically, he was fine, but emotionally, the cracks were deep. His eyes would fill with confusion, grief, guilt. One night, around 2 a.m., he whispered, "I don't know how to belong in this world, Mom." I held his hand and said, "You don't have to figure it out alone." He cried silently, gripping my fingers like he had when he was small. The final healing. Months passed. We took it slowly. Therapy. Small steps. Rebuilding. Relearning each other. Daniel learned to use a smartphone. He got overwhelmed by crowds. He had nightmares. Sometimes he woke screaming Michael's name. But he always found his way back to me. Sometimes we'd sit on the porch, his head resting against my shoulder, watching the sunset. "Do you ever think," he murmured once, "that things could have been different?" "Yes," I answered honestly, "but I'm grateful you're here now. That's enough for me." He smiled softly. And one morning, I found a single white lily on the table. Not from fear. Not from running. Not from captivity. But from my son. A gift. A beginning. A symbol of his healing. A note lay beside it. "I'm sorry I left. But I'm home now. I'm not leaving again."